Ari, Excellent Men Annual 1995. And this is the first story that really gave us a clue to Sinestro's backstory. But this comes at the expense of it only starring 2 members of the Excellent Men, and 2 of the worst ones at that. For this, we have a wraparound cover, Sinestro versus Genesis, and then Smurf and the Orc fighting the Dark Riders. Remember the Dark Riders? They were basically Christopher Clairvoyant trying to rip off Armageddon's jockeys for himself. Meet Faye Livingstone, an elderly woman in a wheelie chair who one day disappears. And then here is the Smurf. The art for these bits, most of the art is by Ken Dodd. It's good, early work from him. He goes on to do a lot more Excellent Men books after this. If you're going to do a Sinestro story, call us old-fashioned, but I feel like Cyclist is the character you want to have around for it. Smurf is fine as well. He has a background that allows him to explain some of Sinestro's science or contrast their work. But the Orc is completely needless. She's likely there just because her husband isn't around, so she has a chance to flirt around and try and shag Smurf. Really. To be completely honest, I would be fine if this story just focused on Sinestro and this feud with Genesis. Get rid of the Excellent Men, just have it feature bad guys. Maybe that is too ahead of 1995, but I care very little for the parts with Smurf and the Orc. Faye Livingstone is a woman from Sinestro's past, and Genesis has learnt this and has kidnapped her to use against Sinestro, and we get flashbacks showing us the shared history, and the art for these is by Jupp Lennon, the late Jupp Lennon. He died earlier this year, and I realised something when I was reading this. I think Jupp Lennon, he drew every issue focusing on Sinestro's past. He does the bits in this. He did that Weapon Cross issue. And he did the mini-series that came out a few years after this annual. In the 1930s, the mysterious Sinestro courted Faye. And it's a bit glossed over, but I feel a gothic romance with Sinestro would be a great sell for a comic. As I said, chop out the 2 Excellent Men and just flesh this part out. Do a full-on genre piece with a ballroom romance, except it's with creepy evil scientist Sinestro. After some sex, Faye discovers the truth about Sinestro. She finds him in his lab and in his true form. And with that big discovery, we cut back to the boring parade. The Orr tries to fuck Smurf over a roaring fire, and even Sinestro was more romantic than this. But before the Orr can have sex with someone who isn't her husband, the cabin that they are alone in is approached by the Dark Riders. And I'm actually just going to skip over these bits. The Sinestro stuff is worth talking about. This isn't. This is a bunch of lame Christopher Clairvoyant characters fighting the two worst excellent men. They kidnap the Orr, although I reckon she went along with it because she saw the chance to fadge another bloke in the end. And Smurf, he doesn't bother contacting the rest of the excellent men, and he goes off by himself to save the Orr. It's not just that I didn't like these two characters. They are definitively the worst excellent men in this. One is a horrible person, and the other is dense when it comes to anything that isn't science. Genesis, his plan makes no real sense, and it is complicated. It was the 90s after all. And we get back to the good stuff. I like the Sinestro flashbacks. I think there is a lot of gothic charm to Sinestro's backstory. Here we have Sinestro being a fucking creepster and telling Faye how she is now nothing more than an experiment to him and genetic stock. And he holds her prisoner and he kind of breaks her spirit, and she gets a bit Stockholm syndrome-y. And then one day, Sinestro just lets her go. And we end this series of flashbacks on another cliffhanger that makes you want to quickly get through Smurf fighting gnomes to learn more about Sinestro and this relationship. And Smurf loses anyway. Really, worst excellent men ever. The underlying point of this story is that Sinestro loves, or he loved, Faye, and she is maybe his one weakness. And the Orr is going to link up Sinestro and Faye's minds. And there is a bittersweet ending where Faye gets one last dance with her love. In a weird way, Sinestro did love her, and she couldn't help but love him. And then she peacefully passes away, having gained some closure on her relationship with Sinestro. Sinestro, on the other hand, he denies any feelings for her, and Genesis gets off without any comeuppance, which I guess is necessary, because if Sinestro did dig anything, it could be perceived as anger or emotion from Faye's death. But then afterwards, Smurf, he notes that he senses Sinestro was affected by her death, and he did care for her, and that he is affecting a front. And then we have He is cyclist for all page. Backup story, and I kind of like this too because it is Captain Britain and it is doing stuff that the Excellent Men books overlook for years at a time, and that is stuff with Captain Britain and his sister Fetish Fuel. It's made extra quirky since Fetish Fuel's current boyfriend, Wingman, is drawn identically to her brother, Captain Britain. Is it incest if your sister is in the body of an Asian ninja? It's a sexy Asian samurai part that's sexy, not the sister part. This is a neat little story for Fetish Fuel, and it has potential for weirdos to get off on an incest kink. I would say it's a pretty solid annual. It could be better. The main story has a lot of elements that seem sadly underdeveloped, but they are still good bits. Sinestro's backstory is always worth a look, so I'll give this comic a 7 thumbs up.